very few chances wherein the speakers...
Sir, section 135(5) of the Companies Act very clearly says that you must do preferably your CSR where you are extracting resources and other things like that. But I have operating officers in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Orissa. Most of the companies are extracting resources from that state. According to my calculation, which I have conducted a lot of research work in sense means all government websites who are extracting minerals, manganese, bauxite, everything. And 10,000 crores they are supposed to spend CSR there. And recently our Ranchi office was started working with this program to prepare it. Then we found out that nobody is willing even to help them. If you see between Jharkhand and Orissa, if you are traveling on the road, few girls go by 10 kilometers to a cycle. The cycle is also very old cycle. But when we talk to so many corporate people, top even RD, what he says is that I am helpless. You lodge a complaint, saying that suppose one largest multinational, one largest company in India is extracting, making a turnover of 2 lakhs crores, extracting manganese, bauxite, everything from Orissa. And one organization has sent to help around the people for some education help little, school books, uniforms, other things. But whereas this company is making 2 lakhs crores turnover by extracting from Orissa. But they are not interested even to receive the application, okay, in Bombay headquarters for a CSR committee, as well as to the board of directors, everything. Then ultimately somebody confidently told, lodge a complaint to Minister of Corporate Affairs, and then followed by SEBI, their rate will fall in the market. Is it necessary for corporates? And 135(5) clearly says that it's the auditor responsibility to say that they are not doing any work in the audit report. What is the meant by preference means that does not mean that you are taking out all the resources from other states. You are sitting in Bombay, somebody is coming, high-five people doing this. Not the people who are really losing the money. They are not asking any luxury things. Just to get some these small things for education, artificial intelligence, these new things, books, uniforms also.
I got your
how to
point.
Responsibility all these things to the company.
Your point is well taken. It is the collective responsibility of the central government, the state governments, the corporates, the municipal organizations and everybody. I know that things are somewhere broken, but I'm very confident that if we have the right intent, I give you an example. You might think that the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board is very difficult to work with, right? You would imagine that. But I found that it has an unbelievably good young chairman who has just been appointed 6 months ago. He has no bad bone in him and wants to do good work. We must stop this mindset of there being no सुनवाई. सुनवाई होगी. अच्छी तरह से बोलोगे तो सुनवाई होती है और बहुत मिलजुल के काम भी हो सकता है. अब अगर मुझे मीठी रिवर पे कैमरा लगाना है तो मुझे एमपीसीबी का ही परमिशन लेना पड़ेगा ना. वो देते हैं, दिया है. इसलिए मैं आपको कह रहा हूं कि first of all there should be no sense of entitlement. There are laws, there is a CSR regulation. It is extremely well sort of managed by the government, I must say. The way in which the CSR activity is being administered is exemplary. So people are being encouraged to spend it in the right way. The good corporates are in any way spending it in for the right thing. But if you have this revised mindset of collaboration, of going out and speaking to people, reaching out, everybody is a human being ultimately. सबको अगर आप रिस्पेक्ट करोगे, अपना ईगो छोड़ के जाओगे, तो कुछ काम बनेगा.
Sir, but my thinking is that the complaint is not important. Work is to be done by them where they are extracting.
I agree.
Now today I will tell you.
We have to encourage.
Sir, I asked one of the Jharkhand Rural Development Minister, please conduct a meeting with the joint seminars since our office is functioning there. But one problem is that tomorrow corporates may think that we are being threatened and blackmailed by the local people. These all issues will come up. Because the reason is that till that time, they don't know where many people are sitting in chartered accountants here. And 135(5) very clearly says that. They're not even asking a question. Where are you getting your resources? Where are you doing your CSR money? Nobody is questioning also. Even actually,
they will
it is
be-
one of the point can be qualified. You are
They'll
supposed to do, the law very clearly says preference.
Let
That
us-
means if two places are there, preference must be given where you are taking out your resources.
Let us not go to compulsion and policing. Let us go to volunteerism and collaboration. That is my message.
But law is made it mandatory, sir. Law is made it
That's
mandatory.
So
And
they
it
are
says that,
spending.
only first country, India adopted this mandatory law. See, all these days, there are people who used to come from foreign countries and they
No.
donated. That is a
Yeah.
different issue there.
Your point of view is not wrong, but please remember that it is only a point of view. Okay? It's only a point of view. Have the humility to accept that. All of us must have that humility. हमारा जो दृष्टिकोण है वो अपना दृष्टिकोण है. मेरा अलग हो सकता है, आपका अलग हो सकता है, आपका एक्सपीरियंस अलग है, मेरा एक्सपीरियंस अलग है. ये तो हो सकता है ना.
Thank you. Do we have, okay, before we take any further questions, I would just like to invite Ms. Preeti Savla ji over the dais, please. She is the Central Council member for ICI. Please give her a round of applause.
At the outset, good morning to all of you. And this is the first seminar of region which I'm addressing after the code of conduct which has completed day before yesterday. So,
Congratulations on your spectacular victory,
and actually this is because Shailesh bhai met yesterday and just we were discussing this is today's program. So, and this is a topic which is very near to my heart. And that's why I thought let me address all of you in presence of Shailesh bhai. So thank you Shailesh bhai for telling that, and I'm here. So thank all of you for giving the great support and getting the things done. So thank you all of you. And very respected Regional Director of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Santosh Kumar ji, who is present over here. And this is under Companies Act, which under Section 135, the CSR, entire thing is coming, and CSR for about 10 crores, which is mandatory for the companies, where impact assessment is also mandatory. And is on the owners of the chartered accountants who are doing all this impact assessment, friends. And one of the new area which has come up very recently in couple of years back, because I got this opportunity to head Sustainability Reporting Standard Board of ICI, and which is very near with this CSR, and where we have done a lot of work, and which I wanted to address all of you because as an opportunity for all the members. So all of you must be aware that it is mandatory for top 1,000 listed companies to have this BRSR, that is Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, and SEBI has also come out with that. However, that impact assessment or assurance, which is first time in the world also. And friends, let me tell all of you that Sustainability Board is the first pioneer in the world, which is done by ICAI. And we have done a lot of work and supported the regulator SEBI for this BRSR or coming out with this assurance, backtesting of several reports, and also building the capacity of the members to come out with that. And we are the first one, institute has responded in the white paper of SEBI that this area should be open to the chartered accountants also. We have also done a lot of work relating to social stock exchange and listing of NPOs on the social stock exchange, and getting the funds, ZZP, that is zero coupon, zero principal, zero interest bonds. It is not bonds, but it is instruments. So all these things. So there are more than 100 NPOs which already registered with social stock exchange, which is under BSE as well as NSE, and 10 NPOs which are already got funding. So we have formed this Institute of Social Auditors of India, which is 100% subsidiary of ICI, where the headquarters are here only on 7th floor. So these are the lot of opportunities for the chartered accountants. So after maybe say basic audits, you can also look after all these opportunities. And I must appreciate WIRC for organizing this seminar on CSR with all the dignitaries and dignified speakers. Shailesh bhai, I can see Milan bhai, Bimal bhai. So I really congratulate them, and I convey all of you that please, a lot of opportunities are there. So look after this, and huge and a lot of webinars, seminars are happening on the sustainability and CSR front. So get into this, and this is a very new area. With these words, I once again welcome all of you to this seminar. Wish you a very happy learning, and thank Santosh Kumar ji as well as Shailesh bhai for being here in spite of their busy schedule and sharing their vast exposure. I have seen Shailesh bhai writing the book, and on not only on sustainability but on technology, because even myself might be very young to Shailesh bhai, but going into technology is, I feel I have to learn a lot. But Shailesh bhai is right. Using the technology and the sustainability and technology goes hand in hand, right? So upgradation is also most important, and with that we can do wonders. So with these words, I thank Shailesh bhai, Santosh ji, and all the speakers, Milen bhai, Bimal bhai, and all the speakers for being here, for sharing their knowledge. Wish you a happy learning. Thank you very much.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sir, I think we'll just take a picture.
I'm very happy that males are in a minority on this stage.
That's lovely. SDG 5, gender equality.
With your permission, can I interact for 5 minutes?
Sure, sir, definitely you can. Dice is yours.
It is my second opportunity among you, and being a regional director of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, I am here for last 2 years, and I want to convey something. When I joined here, the normal pendency of the regional director office was around 800 applications on average day. Pendency was 800. Now it has come to around 150 to 170. And I can assure you, if who are in the practice and filing any approvals with the regional director, without following up, I have created a system in my office. Don't follow, don't come, and whenever you get any resubmission of the documents, kindly note down your pad what type of the mistakes my office has pointed out. And next time when you file this application, similar mistakes should not be pointed out. Even I am planning to issue a FAQ or some time of the do-don'ts. If you do this, follow this do-don'ts, I will share to the Institute of Chartered Accountant as well as, and they will pass on to you for the different applications, different approvals. If you follow this one, you will get first time in first stage approval of this thing. And plus, this, when I joined here, 3 to 4 fast track application was getting approved for merger. Nowadays, it has reached to 15 to 20. And whereas the total merger application going to NCLT, about 30 to 40 application in a month. Out of that, now 50% came to the fast track, but condition is the fast track, the company must be wholly owned subsidiary and holding company or in a small company. Now government is giving further relaxation in the fast track merger for 90% approval of the shareholder as well as 90% approval of the creditors. They want to bring down to 75%, plus they want to remove in the wholly owned subsidiary and holding company solvency position. If the post-merger financial statement of the holding company is a solvent, then the fast track merger can be allowed. So I am just requesting you to interact for your client for fast track merger, because I am seeing the presence of the chartered accountant as well as the company secretary is lesser in the NCLT work. And it is your domain area where I am seeing that mainly this work is with the advocate profession. And in the fast track merger, wherever you go, certification of the chartered accountant is needed. Valuation you are needed, solvency certificate, chartered accountant needed. Matlab purely it is designed for the chartered accountant in practice. So I request all of you to go through the even 233 and try to get the work maximum done. And I am giving approval if you apply and see that it is not having any error defects, you will get the approval within 60 days. Whereas in the merger in NCLT, it takes time, at least 10 months to 1 year time.
So nice of you, sir. Fantastic. Fantastic.
In CSR, because some appeal is coming to me from the ROC, because ROC has the penalty power if you are not making expenditure CSR within the timeline. What mistake I observed from the company, that now requirement is the financial, you have to make expenditure within a year in which CSR obligation has come to you. For last 3 financial year you have taken the average, and in the next financial year 1 year is given to you, make an expenditure. And when you draw your financial statement, then you come to know that this much is surplus. Then you transferred within 6 months to the specified account of the PM relief and other thing. And carry forward provision is only applicable when you have any ongoing project, like you are building hospital, schools. Otherwise, you cannot carry forward 3 years. If you are just simply making expenditure on the school dress, books, and you are giving donation to XY organization, trust, so then in that circumstances, you have to incur within a year. And when you finalize the books of accounts, and then you come to know that your obligation having surplus, CSR budget having surplus, you transferred it to the PM relief fund or wherever you want, because the cost of the penalty is very high. Whatever deficient expenses you have made, the double of the amount ROC is putting the penalty.
So nice of you, sir.
So
Anything you have MCA side, any problem you have, you can interact to me. And if you have any problem from MCA side, you can come forward to my office and share your difficulties to me.
So this is a great collaboration which will help not only the profession but the corporates at large. So thank you for all your support.
Thank you, thank you.
So I think it was really great to know your practical challenges and how you're coping with that up, sir. I think we all be able to help and take a use of it. So we have any further questions? I think there were few questions who intended to ask. Yeah, it's there 10. I think we, no? Okay, okay. So I think, okay, so let's start with the next session now. For that, before that, I would really thank each one of you here, Mr. Shailesh ji and Santosh ji, Preeti ma'am. Please, thank you so much for being here for our first thing. Please give them a round of applause. I would like to invite Mr. C.A. Maji. Could you just introduce him?
Good morning, everyone. So we begin with the session on overview of CSR, FAQ, and few presentations and disclosure from annual reports by our esteemed speaker, CA Milan Modi ji. So I'm here to present the introduction of Sir. CA Milan Modi ji is All India rank holder, 38th rank in intermediate and 36th rank in final CA exams. In audit practice since last 27 years, his areas of expertise include statutory audit, management audit, due diligence review, IFRS and Indian accounting standards. He's also managing partner in NA Shah Associates LLP. He has made around 60 presentations at various forums, platforms, namely BCAS, ICAI, WIRC and its branches, Chamber of Tax Consultants, various CPE study circles spread over Mumbai, Bangalore, etc. The presentations were on following topics: auditing and assurance standard, accounting standards and Indian accounting standards, Companies Act 2013, Schedule 3 and CARO, CSR, due diligence review, internal audit, aggregation of CA firms. He's also a technical reviewer of annual reports for ICA awards on excellence in financial reporting for 4 consecutive years from 2015 up till 2020 and for the year 2020-2021. He has authored various articles published in newspapers, online portals, and professional journals published by BCAS, CTC and ICAI on technical topics related to audit. He is also a contributor to WIRC reference manual for last 5 years. He's also part of group which assisted the peer review board to incorporate section on AQMM in peer review manual. He is also the co-author to publication by Taxman and CTC on CARO 2020 published in August 2021. So with this, we invite you, sir, for our session. I request CA Charul Jain to please present a memento to CA Milan Modi, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, good morning. My presentation is going to be completely different than what Shailesh Bhai spoke about. It is with a PowerPoint presentation. And, she mentioned that I've made around 60 presentations. I've actually made 67 till now. And out of that, this is the 7th session on CSR as a topic. So, you can imagine the amount of interest or the amount of excitement or the amount of importance which is given to CSR as an activity. When Companies Act 2013 was replaced in 1956, we were all very disturbed because there were a lot of sections where the flexibility for a private company was removed. And initial 2-3 years, there were a lot of hiccups in compliance because we were used to 56 and then 2013 came. But one good thing which now, at least at this point of time, I think that 2013 did is to make CSR as a provision under the Companies Act. So Sachin Pilot, who was the person who was a pioneer in the new Companies Act, the CSR was a very, very unique feature. And when the law was being passed at the Parliament, the maximum discussion in the Parliament between the parties happened on CSR as a topic. So you can understand the importance of this topic. Are you able to see this, or you want to remove the chairs a little bit? Yeah. I think you will have to remove the chairs. I think everybody spoke about it, and by now we all know about this. And today is, by the way, the birth of Ratan Tata. He was born on 28th of December 1937. So what a tribute to him in that sense that we are talking about a topic which was close to his heart. He was the original philanthropist of India. And I think it's wrong to assume that business and CSR are conflicting. They actually complement each other. And we have seen that, whether it is the Tata Group or whether it is any other group which did a lot of philanthropy work in the past, they always had a better trust of the investors also. So it's very important to understand that CSR and the business, they go hand in hand, and that's what Bill Ford also mentioned, that for the long-term success, that's something which is important. What we are going to cover today, we are going to cover these 5 things: overview, FAQ, presentation and disclosure requirements, key takeaways, and conclusion. So my presentation is a bit of giving you the overview of the CSR, the guidelines, the act, the practical challenges, certain FAQs which have been released by institute or the ministry, and then looking at the overall environment. So this is the first section where we will look at certain graphs pertaining to CSR, highlight of CSR spend in 23-24. And on the right hand side, we have rules and regulations where we will talk about applicability under section 135, the calculation of profit. The calculation of profit is into 2 parts. One is for ascertaining the eligibility or the applicability, and second is for the computation of amount which needs to be spent. So you need to understand that there are 2 ways in which the calculation has to happen. Constitution of CSR committee and modes of spending, impact assessment and monitoring. Preeti ji did mention that about 10 crores, the impact assessment is now mandatory. CSR from tax perspective, and during this budget, Sitaraman announced a PM internship program. So we'll touch upon that a little bit. Are we okay till now? Again, there is nothing which I need to mention about this, but I still felt that let some background be established before we start into the rules and regulations. So education is where 39% of the spend is. And I think education rightly earns that place, because if the whole country or the whole society is educated, automatically a lot of other things get uplifted. And so it earns 39%. Healthcare is 27%, another large spend. I don't know, with Ayushman Bharat, which is a new scheme the Prime Minister has announced, whether for 5 lakhs above a certain age, whether this will impact the CSR on the health spend, I'm not very sure, but let's see. The others are more or less between 2 to 8%, that's rural development, environment, sustainability, livelihood enhancement, poverty, Prime Minister's National Relief Fund, training to promote sports and women empowerment. I'm a small CA firm in that sense, I mean represent a CA firm. But even we feel that we need to do some CSR. And why is that feeling coming now? Because the generation Z or Z which you call, they are not only after money. They need some purpose in life. And one of the purpose is to live a world which is better than what you have. So hand it over to the next generation, because you are custodians of the earth or the society, and what goes after you to the next generation should be better. And I think this purpose can be achieved only if any organization, whether it is small or big, in its own way, does something for the society. So we did it with Muktangan, which is an education trust, where we asked our people that if you have items which can be used by children at your home, which you are no longer using, and it's in a good condition, please come and donate. And then we hand it over to the trust, who then takes care of all the municipal schools near Worli, and that would be useful to the children coming to those schools. So I think each one of us need to do something for the society, and you know, this is our small way. Coming to the industry, we have, I think, oil, drilling, lubricant and petrochemical, which is the largest. The reason is you have PSUs and Reliances of this world coming in that category. You have banking and finance. Again, banks' profits are being rechannelized to CSR activities. Computer software and IT, which has been India's main service sector. Metal mining and minerals, power and heavy engineering, and others. Others include a lot of these sectors. So this is just to give you an idea that oil drilling and banking are one of the largest. So Mr. Santosh Kumar did touch upon the unspent amount, and I'm going to talk a lot about the unspent amount because there is a shift in the initial 3, 4, 5 years. CSR was comply or explain. When I mean comply or explain, it was not mandatory. You can choose to comply, or you need to explain why you have not spent. The intention was always that the company should spend. But if you have explained and you have a valid reason, there was nothing further to be done. And I think from there we transitioned to a regime which is now more or less mandatory. So we'll come to that part of it again. So the unspent amount is on long-term projects. No clarification why you have not spent is large 22%. And this is a defect, or this is a non-compliance. Even if you have not spent, you need to explain why you have not been able to spend. We will look at some of the companies like Colgate, which has not been able to spend full amount. See what they have mentioned in their annual report. Approval pending from government, budget sanction, project will begin next year, and identifying partners and projects. This is one thing which I read in September of this year, and I felt it is important to share with you, that unlisted company is now 50% of the CSR spent. So we think that listed is the largest community or the largest companies which is doing CSR. It's not necessary. 49%, and that's a movement if you see on the right hand side, 49.2% of total CSR expenditure in 22-23 as compared to 40 which was there pre-COVID. And I also wanted to share a little bit what is mentioned over here. So as I said, it is comply or explain to comply or get penalized. Companies are seeing more synergies between CSR and ESG activities. And sir will speak about that, Vimal sir. A lot of private equity and venture capital investors are also considered ESG compliance as one of the key criteria for them to make the investment. Yeah, are we, and the last part is both listed and unlisted companies see value in compliance despite the fact that violation of CSR obligation has been decriminalized. So earlier it was a part of and then the government removed it. I think it happened 3 or 4 years back, pre-COVID. How is the Indian corporate spending? HDFC is the largest, TCS is second largest. I've also given the source from which this data has been collated. So that's on the National CSR Data Portal. You have HDFC, you have TCS, Reliance, ICICI, Tata Steel, ONGC, Infosys, ITC, NTPC, and Power Grid. So these are some of the large companies which have spent huge amount. And I think after thinking about it a lot, initially the understanding of CSR for myself was also very poor. But I can now understand where the government came from, and it's a master stroke in that sense. Just think about it. They could have collected more tax, correct? They could have added some like you have education cess, they could have added a CSR cess or a higher education cess. If you remember, we had those cesses. They could have added that, collected that money, and used it for CSR activities. But I think instead of government doing and government distributing, like a PDS scheme, it felt it more appropriate to put the onus on the companies so that the expertise of not 1, 2, 3, 4, thousands of corporate can gather for the overall upliftment of the community, society, and India at large. So now if you think of it, it's like a public-private partnership. And I think, at least I'm seeing the results of some of these things happening all across, because the stories which you hear or the instances which you hear are really marvelous, where companies are doing excellent work. There was a survey done for 301 companies, and certain takeaways from that is that 56% of implementing partners had less than 50 employees. Education and environment and sustainability has emerged as a priority sector. 71% of corporate prefer working with implementing agencies rather than doing it directly. So as the amount increases, corporates are finding it difficult to do it themselves. Initially, maybe it was easier. 65% of the organizations implement fewer than 5 CSR projects. Average actual spend has, for these 301 companies, has increased from 22 crores to 54 crores. And 30% of companies do not have female representative on their CSR committee. So, you know, CSR also has women empowerment as one of them, but you see that 30% are not even having a woman representation for CSR. And again, my views have also changed over the years, and I feel a woman representative is very important, because the way men think and the way women think on some of these activities is different, and you need to have a good balance between the two. This was one of the comment that the CSR framework should be very robust, and the company should ensure that the activities align with the business strategy, and the board must ensure that CSR is pursued in a responsible and an accountable manner. So look at it differently. We have segment reporting. Segment reporting, what does it mean? If you have different businesses, CSR is also one of the segment of a business today. Yeah, it's become so large in terms of absolute value, if not in terms of percentage. Percentage, it will still be 2% of your profit. But if that 2% itself is a very large amount, don't you think it's a segment by itself? It is. There are specialists in CSR. Sir, I have come across a recruitment agency which specializes only for recruiting staff for CSR activity. And it charges a lower fee as a recruitment fee as compared to a normal recruitment fee, which would be between 8.33% of CTC to 12 or 15 or 20%. It charges a lower fee. And that lower fee also resulted in a huge corpus where that recruitment agency is now using that corpus to educate girls. So you can see the beauty of it, that CSR itself has generated so much, where a recruitment agency is formed only for recruiting CSR staff, and the profit out of that activity by that recruitment agency has led to another education initiative. Yeah, so I mean, something like this is in that sense unbelievable maybe 10 years back. We'll go to hard rules and regulations. Yeah, this may be slightly boring. To some people it may be slightly interesting, but we are catering to a vast audience, and hopefully everybody will have some takeaway. CSR activities outside India are prohibited. So if you had a earthquake in Kathmandu, Nepal, and corporates wanted to do CSR activity over there, it was not permitted. It has to be for India. So that's a rule, that's a law. You cannot have CSR activity exclusively for the benefit of employees, because then it's an employee welfare and not a CSR. Yes, indirectly, if employees also benefit, that's a sub part of it, but it cannot be essentially for employees. Contribution directly or indirectly to political party is not permitted. Sponsorship activities for deriving marketing benefit for product stroke services. Now this is a little dicey area because it's very subjective. And I know a lot of corporates which, you know, their brand promotion and their CSR activity are intervened. Again, if you look at strictly, it may be wrong, but let's look at it practically and let's look at it. In the end, if it is benefiting the society, what's wrong? If it's benefiting the company also and benefiting the society also, it may not be that huge an ethical question as initially perceived by people like me. Activities for fulfilling statutory obligations under law in force in India. So if you are under a, if you have a mine, you know, after the mine closes, you have a responsibility to do a plantation, sapling and all that. So those tree plantation is required under law and it does not fall under a CSR activity. Activities eligible, again some examples over here: eradicating hunger, poverty and malnutrition, promoting education, as we saw education is anyway the largest, promoting gender equality, which we spoke about some time back, environmental sustainability, contribution to Prime Minister's Relief Fund and Rural Development Project. I think State Relief Fund is still not permitted, that's if I vaguely understand, but you all can check that. So though Prime Minister Relief Fund is included, the state relief funds are not included. And you can refer to Schedule 7 for the complete list. As I said during this budget, this was a very, very innovative thinking in my view, where they are saying the top 500 companies, they should take internship of students, and for over 5 years, the training cost can be borne from CSR funds. So the training of these interns done by corporate becomes like a CSR spend. 5% of expenditure incurred under the scheme may be booked as administrative cost by the company. We'll come to this 5% administrative cost because again there also could be a different interpretation by different companies. Internship duration 12 months and 5,000 rupees per month. How are the selection of these 500 companies? Identified by MCA based on their average CSR expenditure of the last 3 years. 500 contributed by the partner company from its CSR funds, and the balance 4,500 would be a direct debit transfer to that intern. And there is also an additional 6,000 rupees one time. So in that sense, he gets a 5,500 rupees from the government. And I think, again, look at the new thing which has come, you know, like Swachh Bharat was a mission, and Swachh Bharat spend became a part of the CSR allowed expenditure. If this momentum is built, what is it doing? It is generating sort of an employment, a skill development. It is helping the large companies also because they are getting the talent at a lower cost, where government is subsidizing some of the costs. So I think all in all, it's a win for the intern. It's good for the government because it generates employment and uplifts the overall demography of the people who are skilled, and it helps the company also. So I think whoever thought about this is brilliant, and this should yield results over the next 5 to 7 years. Can a company provide more than 500 rupees monthly assistance? Yes, it can do so from its own fund. So it's, and this is where I just wanted to have your views. How many of you are practicing CAs, and what is the article stipend which we pay? I hope it's more than 5,000 at least. Yeah, so that's our way of indirect. It's similar to an intern program which has been announced, isn't it so? And it's been there for ages, where we have article trainees where we are paying them stipend. And incidentally, my firm does pay a stipend which is greater than that. So we are happy about it and proud about it, that we are helping build that people along with some money so that they can take care of their own cost. Are we good till now? Yeah, so there are three criterias: net worth above 500 crores, turnover above 1000 crores, and net profit before tax of more than 5 crores. We'll come again a little more granular on this. Most of the companies which I have seen are in the third category, which is net profit more than 5 crores, because if your turnover is closer to 1000, you need to have earned 5 crores of profit. Otherwise, what's the point of doing so much business? And net worth, I have not seen many. 250 crores is the cutoff for applying IFRS or Ind AS, and here it is 500. So all companies which have to follow IFRS are still not required to do CSR in that sense. So I don't know whether it should be reduced to 250 or not. Again, these limits have been set as early as in 2013, and we are in 2024, so it has been 10 years, and no inflation is added for the eligibility criteria. If it is a company which has been in existence for more than 3 years or 4 years, then the spend is equal to 2% of the average net profit made during the 3 immediately preceding financial years. And if it is a new company, then you look at the immediately preceding year. So this was a change which happened subsequently. Initially, the view was for the first 4 years, CSR does not become applicable. That was way at the beginning, because you don't have 3 years profit only. So if you don't have, the mechanism fails and you can't compute what you have to do. Again, that view may not have been correct, because you still had 1 year, 2 years profit available, and you could have done the averaging. So I think companies must have misused that provision of 3 years, and based on that, this preceding year subsequently came under the law. As I said, the net profit calculation is into 2 sublimbs. One is the eligibility criteria, and second is the actual computation. So this is the eligibility criteria, where you start with net profit before tax. You add the profits of overseas branches, and you also, you reduce that from your profit. So if your profit is, let's say 6 crore, and 50 lakhs is from a Dubai branch, you reduce 6 minus 50 lakhs, which becomes 5.5. And then you also reduce the dividend which you've received from another company which is otherwise complying with CSR. So this is to avoid double counting. Otherwise, that company on its profit is also paid, and then when it is distributing dividend, the other company also on the same amount has to do CSR activity. So to avoid that cascading effect, the second reduction is available, and then based on that you check whether it exceeds 5 crore or not. Yeah. This 198 will generate some confusion, some calculation error. I would make a request that be conservative, err on the, because anyway you are doing something for the good of the society. So don't worry too much, even if it is a slightly on the higher side. Subsidies or bounties received from government, credit of that should be given. Security premium, profit on sale of forfeiture of shares, profit of capital nature, and any change in asset or liability which is directly recognized in equity is not to be considered. This capital nature is something which is important. So if you have sold a large division or an undertaking, then the profit which you derive from them, it's a one-time non-recurring item, and it's not your operational income. And that need not be considered while computing your CSR, because otherwise it will jump up significantly. Some of the permissible deductions are compensation or damages for breach or legal liability, depreciation as per 123, bad debts and write-offs, past losses as computed under section 198. Now here there is a contradiction between the Act and the FAQ. FAQ clearly says past losses are not allowed, and the Act says that the past losses as computed under 198 are allowed. If you remember, this 198 is similar to the director's remuneration computation, I think section 369 or some other section in the old 1956 Act. Sums not allowed to be deducted, income tax paid as per Income Tax Act, loss of capital nature. So if gain of capital nature is not allowed, same way loss of capital nature is not allowed. Compensation, damages paid voluntarily, and any change in the carrying value of assets and liabilities in equity under the fair value through P&L or the fair value through OCI accounting. Yeah? So this is how you should compute your profit for the last 3 years. Do a 2% of that to arrive at how much you need to spend. So I spoke about general administrative, and my initial understanding was that you can keep a timesheet of people who are spending time on volunteering activity, and that timesheet of your people for that volunteering activity, and you can multiply it with their CTC and arrive at an administrative cost. But I was proved wrong recently, because based on an FAQ and everything, it is only administrative cost for a CSR department and not for non-dedicated employees. So if your employees are doing volunteering, that should not be considered as a part of an administrative expenses. Again, somebody may interpret it differently. And the administrative expenditure should not exceed 5% of the total CSR. So if you have 100 rupees to be spent, and if your CSR department cost is 6 rupees, then only 5 will be considered as CSR and 1 will be considered as a non-CSR spend, and you will still have to incur 95 rupees of CSR spend. The expense directly incurred on designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluation of particular CSR project. So again, initially people would have thought, what is this administrative expenses on CSR? But if you look at the large corporates amount of CSR spend they have to do, they have no choice but to form a group or team which is dedicated for the CSR activities, because CSR is not just taking out a checkbook and issuing a donation. This is very important. It's not that. It is your participation. It's your active participation. It's your monitoring. It is your whatever other things a company can provide besides just a check. Yeah? So that's why if you look at the FAQ also, a pure donation is generally not a part of a CSR activity. Salary and training employees working in CSR division can be a part of the CSR administrative overheads. But if it's for teachers for education related CSR project, is not administrative overhead and shall be covered under the direct project cost. This slide is slightly difficult to read because rather than going horizontally, we've gone vertically while presenting this. And so I'll read out for that. So the unspent amount is in 2 categories. Ongoing project or not an ongoing project. What do you mean by an ongoing project and not an ongoing project? A project which takes larger than 12 months is an ongoing project. All others fall as other than non-ongoing. So if it's an ongoing and the amount is not spent, then within 30 days you have to transfer it to a scheduled bank. So that's the step 1. You have to read step 1 on top with the step 1 at the bottom of the second row. And after 3 years also, if you're not able to spend it, then you have to transfer it within 30 days thereafter to a fund specified under Schedule 7. So that's as far as ongoing project is concerned. If it's other than ongoing, then transfer to the fund specified under Schedule 7 within 6 months from the end of the financial year. So if you had to spend that money before 31st March 2023, then on 30th September, you should have transferred this to the PM fund. PM fund or whichever other specified Schedule 7 fund. And that is where I said that it is moved from comply or explain to comply or mandatory. You know, because now there is no option. If you're not spend it, you still have to, like Investor Education and Protection Fund. And believe me, I'll share my first CSR presentation, and this was an item of food for thought, because at that time, there was no fund for unspent amount. It also, in a way, kills the argument about provisioning. So we will speak about that, because that's one question which all of you would be facing. That if it's a listed company and it has to spend at the end, till the end of the year, 1 crore, and in the first quarter it spends, let's say 5 crores, 1 crore, yes, it has spent only 5 lakhs. What do you do? Actually, every quarter should be 25 lakhs if you look at uniformity. And that question, anybody wants to answer that? Do you need to make a provision for the balance 20 in the quarter 1? No, he's saying no. Anybody yes for yes? So first quarter was 5, next quarter was 10, then 15, and then another 5. What happens in the last quarter? Do you provide? Your obligation is 1 crore, 5, 10, 15, 5. So that makes it 35. So you still have an obligation left of 65, which within 6 months you have to transfer it to the Schedule 7 fund. So why is it not required? It will be required, sir. Abhi indirectly mandatory ho gaya na? So from a profit perspective, you will have to ensure that the 65 which is unspent is provided for. Yeah. Hope you all agree with me. Barabar hai, sir, Abhi? We're talking about the CSR committee, and there are different criteria for private, foreign, unlisted and listed. For private, it is 2 or more directors. Foreign companies, it's 2 or more directors, of which 1 is an Indian director. Unlisted company, if it has an independent director, then same as listed company. If it does not have an independent director, then 2 or more directors. And listed companies, not less than 3 directors, out of which 1 of them has to be an independent director. But if you have a CSR spend of less than 50 lakhs, then you did not have a committee, and the board of directors can take a decision as regards the CSR initiatives of the company. Yeah. This was also introduced little later. It was not there initially. And I think the initial reading required that all CSR committees have an independent director. So by an indirect mode, it was required that a private company will have to induct an independent director. But I think they have now clarified. Methods of implementing CSR, it is directly on its own capabilities through another non-profit setup, through its own non-profit foundation. So you have innovative funds and a lot of other foundations of each large corporate groups which is formed. So if they have 20 companies in a group, they will pool all that 20 companies CSR into a single Section 8 company or a trust, and from there they will do the CSR activities. Through independent registered non-profit organization that have a track record of at least 3 years, so this is a requirement, and collaboration or pooling their resources with other companies. I think Shailesh Bhai also very clearly mentioned about a collaboration between a temple trust and a corporate and things like that. So I think those things definitely are welcome. Some of these is very general, but the CFO and the board of directors need to ensure that there is a proper monitoring of the funds which have been disbursed, and obtain progress reports, held discussions with those teams, and the learnings to be applied in the forthcoming projects. A little bit on impact assessment, though I'm not an expert on that subject, but whatever little I understand is that develop a methodology for impact assessment. In fact, there are organizations, service organizations, which specialize on impact assessment for CSR. Impact measurement team, collect data, site visit, analyze data, and a continuous improvement. I'll give you one example which I could find. So rural education. Education leads to increased enrollment of students. It's a short-term achievement. Leads to increase in knowledge and improved awareness of social issues. So whether it is sanitation or gender equality, those issues become more prominent when there is more education. Awareness leads to overall improved health and sanitation needs. That leads to employability of students and lower crime or theft ratios, and it leads to the overall development of a particular village. Yeah. So this is like an impact assessment. So I know of a Section 8 company which works on a water body development. So if there is a groundwater which is collected during rains, the peripheral boundaries and all that, they work with the government at various panchayats and ensure that the water which is stored in those bodies is drinkable and it is preserved throughout the non-monsoon period. So there are a lot of these things, and then they monitor that better water has it led to better health of the people staying over there. Penal provision, why is the amount required to be transferred, or 1 crore, whichever is less? I think Santosh Kumar ji did mention about the penalty being twice the amount to be spent. And the officer also, it is 1/10 or up to 2 lakhs, whichever is less, for non-compliance of CSR. And the MCA has been active in issuing notices for non-compliance with CSR. I don't know whether Santosh Kumar ji did cover that part. I came a slightly little later. This is another favorite topic. Income tax में क्या होता है? और मैंने जब CSR के बारे में बोलना चालू किया, तो first time came up that if Tata's built up a stadium in Jamshedpur or a school in Jamshedpur, where it is a Tata Steel, they were doing these activities, and whether there is a case law that expenditure is allowed, disallowed. It is not only for employees, it's open to public and things like that. I think we need to move away from this discussion. That's my personal feeling. The government could have said 3% CSR mandatory and all allowable. So indirectly it would mean 3 minus the tax component, and the net would go 2. Yeah, but it has said 2 with a purpose and said no tax benefit for these CSR activities. In fact, under the old tax regime, you could at least get the 80G benefit, but if you are in the new tax regime, the 80G benefit also of that CSR goes away. And hence I think we need to completely move away from this discussion or debate and assume that CSR is not an eligible item. And we can discuss whether it is logical, non-logical, ये सही है, गलत है, छोड़ दो ना अभी, जो है वो है, जो आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते, उसके बारे में चर्चा करके भी क्या मतलब है? GST, ITC not allowed on goods and services purchased for CSR activities. Yeah, I remember during COVID time, some of the questions which used to come to us, वो ऑक्सीजन के लिए मशीन्स रहते थे, तो कंपनी ने वो खरीदे थे कोविड टाइम पे, तो उसको कैपिटलाइज करना कि नहीं करना? Now you can't capitalize it because there is no revenue generating out of that oxygen machine. You are going to use it only for your employees or society or community or the village for ensuring that nobody is affected by COVID. So where is the question of it earning any benefit? So where is the question of capitalizing it? Yeah, so I think sometimes we get into a non-required accounting and auditing dialogue where it is not required. And I think subsequently they did mention, because some companies purchased ambulances, whether that ambulance is a capital asset in the books of the company or it should not. And I think they have later on said that it should not form part of the fixed assets of the company. ICI also believes that it should not be an isolated one-time event for companies. It should be integrated in a broader business strategy. And here I will, sorry, but I would like to talk about another forum where I went as a speaker, and they didn't have these plastic bottles. They had a glass and a jug. And they felt that it's more relevant to ensure that we don't have plastic wastage on a seminar which is on sustainability and CSR. And they replaced the plastic bottles with glasses and a bottle or a jug. So I think these are small things. You know, what we can do. For example, when plastic was banned in Bombay, we still were ashamed to carry those cloth bags to purchase our groceries or vegetables. I think these are small things. If we train our mind and are a little more conscious, we can do as our part of the CSR activity to remove those plastic. आज भी हम लोग जाते, अरे तेरे पास देखना होगा बैग, कुछ तो निकलेगा. So we are still not used to that. We'll go to the FAQs which have been issued, and the need for the FAQ is so that people are aligned with the same thought process. Again, I said I have seen a journey of CSR myself and changed my mind on CSR. In the initial years, some companies used to do a reciprocal arrangement. A company will give to a trust belonging to another company, the other company will give it to a trust belonging to the other group companies. And then they will find a way to rechannelize that amounts. I think those, even if they are there, are now fewer. People have realized the benefit or the power of doing genuine good work, and it does come back some way or the other. So we spoke about whether CSR applies to a company that has not completed 3 years, and the answer is yes. We saw how to calculate it. Whether holding or subsidiary of a company fulfilling the criteria has to comply. So if holding company it is applicable, does it apply to a subsidiary necessarily? The answer is no, unless independently the subsidiary also qualifies, and vice versa. Is it mandatory for a current company to give report of CSR activity? The answer is yes. Can the excess amount spent be recorded as prepaid expenses? The general practice is not to record it, but mention it by way of a note in the financial statements so that there is a track record that you spended more, and the next year if you spend more, that audit trail or that trail is available within these notes for somebody to convince that you have fulfilled your obligation. Whether involvement of employees of the company in CSR project can be monetized under the head CSR expenditure, and no, except as I said, it is for the CSR department. This is a question somebody asked on the Orissa minerals. Is it mandatory for companies to do CSR in the local area? The preference to local area in the first provision is only directory or suggestive, and it is not mandatory. But I think ROC had issued certain notices, and based on that, at least one company I know, they changed their CSR for schools to Maharashtra as compared to other parts of India. So I think some amount of responsibility by the corporates would be useful to avoid questions which the gentleman had to Shailesh bhai. Can CSR expenditure be incurred on activities beyond Schedule 7? You can do it, but it will not fall under CSR. So you can still do a voluntary CSR which is outside the law. Whether dispersal of funds by a company to an implementing agency for implementation of the project can be considered as a spend, the answer is no. So on 31st of March, you realize that you have an unspent amount, and you put a check and it appears in a BRS statement on 31st of March. That's not done. Because you need to also monitor. Some arguments against what I'm saying is that you are reimbursing for an amount which is already spent. मतलब वो implementing agency ने पहले खर्चा कर दिया है, आप उसको reimburse कर रहे हो, तो actually spend हो गया है. Again, I think try to stay away from some of these practices because they unnecessarily, cloud the objective of the company. Which companies are required to undertake impact assessment? So there is a rule 8, sub-rule 3, and companies with a minimum average of CSR obligation of 10 crores or more. And if it is for an and the outlay should be minimum 1 crores in that particular year. Yeah, so there could be an unspent amount. So 10 crore is the minimum average obligation. So, but if you have spent only 9, then also it is applicable because your obligation was 10, though you have not spent the full 10. As far as if you had an outlay of more than 1 crore, your impact assessment is mandatory. Whether 2 or more companies collaborate for implementing CSR project, the answer is yes, you can do that for sure. And in fact, it is beneficial because the pooling of resources should be more beneficial to the organizations at large. In case of listed entity, whether annual CSR spend to be provided on quarterly basis, the answer is no, not on a quarter, but at least on the annual basis. Is it mandatory? Unless there is a contractual obligation. So the law also provides that if you have already committed something, then you need to provide. PO issue kar diya hai, to alag baat hai. Is it mandatory to make provision in books for the unspent amount? The answer is yes. What should be the treatment when a company supplies goods or services by its own or renders services as CSR activities? Then the cost element of that, when there is a transfer of risk and reward or a control, at that point of time that accounting should happen. How can companies with small CSR fund take up CSR activities in the project program mode? Such companies can combine with the CSR programs of other similar companies by way of pooling. Whether companies undertake any CSR activities determined under Schedule 7 of the Act for exclusive benefit of employees, the answer is no. It cannot be for employees, only for employees. Can it be done for activities outside India? We already saw that the Kathmandu earthquake or in Nepal, that was not eligible. But if it is for an Indian sports personnel representing any state or union territory at a national or international level, then that training which is done outside India can be covered as a CSR expenditure. This is Indira who has mentioned that transparency is not a one-time but an ongoing commitment. A responsible company should consistently disclose CSR efforts, share challenges, and be open about progress. And I think I do remember an advertisement by Coca-Cola, if I'm not wrong, which said what are the harmful effects of drinking Coca-Cola. So it is selling Coca-Cola, it is manufacturing Coca-Cola, but it's also warning people that it's not good for you to have. And I think that's the highest level of maturity an organization can show. That, okay, I want to be responsible. People may decide whether to have it or not after the advertisement, but that should not matter if I have a conviction in what I'm doing. Presentation and disclosure requirements. I think we're coming to the last section. So there's board report, company financials, CARO reporting, and business responsibility and sustainability report. The board report should disclose and outline the policy, an overview of activities undertaken, description of projects which are undertaken, composition of the committee, average net profit of last 3 years, and the prescribed amount which needs to be spent. This is a continuation of that. Details of CSR spent during the year, again broken up into amount to be spent, amount unspent, excess amount spent, and manner in which the amount is spent. We'll see about that in the second slide. Reason for not spending 2%, and whether any capital asset has been created or acquired through CSR amount. Yeah, so there is a host of disclosures in the board report. This is a format, CSR project, sector, local or state, amount outlay, amount spent on project into direct overheads, cumulative expenditure, and whether the amount is directly spent or through an implementing agency. If you remember, I spoke about Colgate, which was not able to spend, so they had a bright smiles, bright future. They have said that due to severe winters in northern region and election protocol in some region hindered our ability to reach the targeted schools. And hence the 2.8 crores which they were not able to spend, they have transferred it to the separate account. The overall amount must have been larger, but some portion they were not able to spend. In case of MRF, they have said that the shortfall was on account of delay in implementation of the project and the project duration extending beyond 1 financial year as per the original schedule of implementation, and the unspent amount has been transferred to the company's bankers and will be spent in the subsequent year. So this is a normal unspent amount of an ongoing project. The earlier one also seems to be an ongoing project because they have said that it is to the Colgate Palmolive's bank account. So both the cases are more or less of an ongoing project. Schedule 3 disclosure, like you have board disclosure, you have a similar disclosure, CSR expenditure in P&L, contractual liability for which provision is created, disclosure by way of notes to cash flow, related party transactions when it comes to CSR, disclosure in notes in terms of amount required to be spent, amount actually spent, and then again what is spent into 2 parts for construction or acquisition of a capital asset and amount paid in cash yet to be paid. So this is one of the template of disclosures which is done by FSN, that this 15 crores was required to be spent. They have spent only 7.44, shortfall is 7.64, and provision movement, which means the equivalent amount has been provided for. And they had a similar situation in the last year also. Yeah, any questions till now? Yeah, please. So this is just saying that this is a provision, though the word is movement over here. I think you have to read it as provision during the year. So it's not an opening plus what is transferred, the new provision, and then the closing. I think just say that 7.31 was unspent and then they provided 7.31. How that provision has evolved, we don't know because we have not looked at the full financials. They would have most probably either paid it to the government or they would have spent it in the subsequent year. But that's not very clear from this table, you are right. Sure. Yeah. The auditor now has to report, so I'll come to that CARO. I'll come to the CARO reporting. Give me a minute. Yeah, the next slide. Whether the company has transferred unspent amount to a fund specified in Schedule 7. Here you will have to say, no, it is not transferred. And see the second question, special account. So there are 2 parts. One is to a fund and one is to a special account. Both the things, if it is not done, then the auditor has to report in CARO. So they have now put the obligation on the auditors to at least report on it. And the fact that they have said you report in CARO, then there is nothing further which you need to do as an auditor. Sorry? You should give it by way of notes. Notes में आपने देखा ना पहले भी था unspent amount का, तो वो तो देना ही पड़ेगा. And this particular management should ideally include a note, and you should draw a reference here. But if management is not disclosing, then you directly put it over here and also say that the management has not disclosed it. It's the same principle of auditing which you apply for any other item, which should apply to this now. No, it will not be a qualification, sir. If it's in CARO, why would there be a qualification? Otherwise, they would have included in that other list of items in the main report. So I don't think it should be a qualification. So maybe that is when the CARO was still not changed and you did not know where to report it. So that's why it is reported as in the main audit report. I don't think you need to, as an auditor, become so harsh. There could be some valid reasons. I'll give you an example. Company is highly profitable. All the money is still to come from the government of India. Ministry of Defense has not released the funds. Now, company does not have a cash flow to pay their salaries. How can it deposit it? Profit है, लेकिन सब debtors में अटक गया है और government debtors है. अभी वो situation में, do you expect them to borrow money from outside and pay it to the fund? No. So there could be some valid reasons, sir. So I think if you understand that, and if you feel that no, the management wants to be indifferent about it, and you qualify as a different perspective. But if there is a, yeah, sir. That's what he's also saying. So I think, sir, you will have to use your judgment, your audit acumen, and decide that does it really require an qualification, because qualification is something which, other than that, it's not true and fair. तो सिर्फ ट्रांसफर नहीं किया है उससे ट्रू एंड फेयर इफेक्ट नहीं होना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से. हाँ, यू आर राइट. कारो इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल देन यस. बट जनरली छोटी कंपनीज को कारो एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. जिसका CSR है उसको कारो नहीं अप्लाई होना, वो थोड़ा थियोरेटिकल क्वेश्चन है, सर. आई अग्री विथ. That's what I'm saying, sir. So if a profit is exceeding 5 crores and still it is a smaller company, where Caro is not applicable, will be very unlikely situation. It may be 1 out of 100 cases. That's what I'm saying. You may be right, but general scenario ऐसा नहीं होगा ना, sir. If there is enough disclosure in the notes to accounts, I would personally not qualify it over there. That's my personal view. Yeah. आप MSME का देख लीजिए, कितना अच्छा उदाहरण है. कंपनी MSME का भी रेगुलेशन फॉलो नहीं करती है. कुछ ऑडिटर्स क्वालिफाई करते हैं, कुछ ऑडिटर्स क्वालिफाई नहीं करते हैं. तो अभी वो तो हर एक उसका इम्पोर्टेंस, रेलिवेंस क्यों नहीं किया है, वो देख के ही आपको डिसाइड करना पड़ेगा. सॉरी. If it was otherwise 12 months, then yes. Otherwise, it's so that's a dicey area. कि 2 साल के बीच में 3 महीने का प्रोजेक्ट है और 2 साल के बीच में है, तो whether it is utilized or not, the plain reading says it is still not utilized. Plain reading says it's not utilized. Yeah. Yes. That regulation came 2 years back, 2 or 3 years back. Some of the best practices to share the CSR vision, governance structure, details regarding employees volunteering for the CSR projects, outreach or people impacted, focus areas of the project, involvement of organizations in delivering products and services that are safe and sustainable. I spoke about that. So, you know, you have a lot of companies which say that we use newspaper bags for shopping rather than a plastic bag. So those are all initiatives. Quantitative data of projects and drill down details, success stories of project undertaken and feedback of target groups, how businesses is carried out in ethical, accountable and transparent manner. We spoke about Mr. Tata earlier, and he said that it's an opportunity for him to make a difference in people's life. Very quickly, we'll go through some of the corporate initiatives which I found slightly innovative. Masti Ki Pathshala, an all-round development of street children and child labor. Tata Medical Center for cure of cancer. Kaushalya, skilling of rural women. Nanhi Kali for primary education for underprivileged girls. Project Haryali, annual target of planting 1 million trees. Project Hunar for skill development, project for people with disabilities. Wipro has done education for children with disability, Museum of Art and Photography at Bangalore, healthcare programs predominantly focused on maternal and child care. Reliance has tied up with Gates for empowerment of women, Vantara project which we have all heard about for treating injured, abused and threatened animals. India Jodo, bridging the gap between rural and urban India. Dabar has self-defense training for young girls. Mission for total rehabilitation of Madari community. Project Saksham for rehabilitation of head injury patients. Colgate has Bright Smiles, water accessibility programs and Smile for Life. So these are the various programs which have been undertaken. Again, I have few more slides still. Some of the errors which we have noticed: not formulating a CSR policy, misallocation of funds, no impact assessment done even though it is more than 10 crores, failure to transfer unspent amount, incorrect working of net profit, inadequate disclosure, provision not made for unspent amount, control title of assets not transferred. So this was one of the requirement which came, I think post-COVID, of if you have an ambulance, you have to transfer the control. CSR administrative overheads not captured correctly. What can we do as chartered accountants? We can play the role of an internal auditor. We can have checklists which are created. We can do due diligence of implementing agency. We can have a continuous monitoring of activity by the project leader and adopt best industry practices. Support CFO and the board for overall review of project implementation, overseeing the appropriate allocation and expenditure of CSR fund, ensuring proper reporting of CSR activities in the company's financial statements, and ensuring legal compliance and providing strategic and financial advice on CSR initiatives. What could be the future? I think it's a very important vehicle for a social change and a revolution in that sense. And I think if there is a proper collaboration, and this is the first point which I mentioned, increased collaboration and a vehicle for social change, regulatory authorities shift from merely complying to the letter of law to, so it's in the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law, and participation of public-private enterprise for a broader reach and impact. Our ability to give back to society is what matters the most, and that's very important. Thank you, and if you have any questions, I'll take them. Thank you. I don't think there will be questions, but if there is any question, yeah, ma'am. Should I come down and hand over the mic to you? No, it's okay. I like to do this.
Conceptualized it and very nicely presented it. Only one question in my mind. When we say it has to be spent in the local area. Now, what do you mean by local area? Is it where the factory of the company is, or where the registered office of the company is, where the corporate office of the company is?
I think it should be where the factory is. That's my belief. But again, that's only for manufacturing, right? What happens to a non-manufacturing? And the gentleman who spoke about Orissa, please ma'am, spoke about where the raw material is sourced and then it is brought to another place. So I think local area would mean wherever the company has its operation. And then whether you divide it equally among 4 areas, 4 factories if you have, whether you divide it by 4 or whether you give more importance to one factory, that would has been left open for the interpretation of the management. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, I hope I've been able to do justice to this topic, and I hope, yes sir.
So as, many companies are doing this through the implementing agencies. So what we have understood that there must be some principal agency relationship, right? Yeah, okay.
So there is an agreement, there is an MOU, there is a detailed MOU which is entered between the committee and it's on stamp paper with deliverables by the implementing agency and a right of the company to do an audit of the activities of that implementing agency.
Yeah, but the companies themselves have, founded this Section 8 company through
Yes.
which, so in that case it will acting as an agent of the company.
Yes.
So whatever CSR funds the company is disbursing to that implementing agency, Section 8 company, from the angle of Section 8 company, will it be as an income or just a liability?
A very interesting question, and I have come across a Section 8 company which has a surplus more than 5 crores. It is doing CSR activity, but it still has a surplus of more than 5 crores. And that company also is required to do another CSR activity. So it's an income in that sense, and whatever they spend will be an expenditure. So it will be an income, whatever funds they receive, whatever they have spent on various projects will be an expenditure. There will be income minus expense. There will be a surplus or a deficit. And if that surplus is above 5 crore, though it has only done CSR activity, it will further have to do 2% of that profit also as CSR activity.
Yeah, but this Section 8 company is only doing for its principal only. It is
How
not
does it
accepting
make-
any donations.
How does it make a difference, sir?
Yeah.
I'll give you another example, and that's where if a company has invested in a Section 8 company, which is a not-for-profit, in investment, they put 10 lakh rupees. Then in your investment schedule of the holding company, do you show what is the fair value of that 10 lakhs? It's zero, na? Because you're never going to get your money back. You're never going to get any dividend from that company. So then ideally you should say invested 10 crores, less you're not going to receive anything, and hence the net is zero. So even if it is a single relationship between the donor and the donee, it will still be an income in my view. You have a different view, sir?
Yeah, means if as a Section 8 company, if I'm accepting some funds from the principal, you are the
Yeah.
principal, then I'm bound to spend according to your instructions only.
Right.
And
So it's a
if,
liability you are saying.
means if I could not spend, I can return it, or company can ask for that money
Okay.
because it has to fulfill its CSR obligations.
Yeah, that could be a perspective that till the time it's earmarked, so it's a liability. I've received the fund and I have to spend it, and if I'm not spend it, I may have to return it back. If that condition is there, you may be right. If that condition is there, yes.
Okay.
And as I said, most of the cases what happens is it's also a reimbursement. Activity is actually done by the intermediary, and now you are reimbursing that amount. So it all depends on that. But generally I've seen income and expense. You may earmark the funds.
Because, sorry to interrupt, because I think ICI guidance note is also there something.
Okay.
I am not, I mean,
Sure.
but there might be some, it's showing some liability side also.
Sure, agreed. Possible. Yeah, it has to be for spending, it can't be for corpus. So if you look at it, if it is refundable, then yes, but otherwise I have seen the trust also showing it as a separate, on the liability, yeah, income and the expenditures. No, but if it is refundable, then you can't consider that as an expenditure done, because the utilization has not happened. If the utilization has not happened, then it fails the CSR test. So, no, but he is right in a sense that some smart, auditor would have suggested कि अगर वो नहीं करेगा तो, because there have been frauds by implementing agencies. So वो clause डाला होगा, और वो अगर clause डाला होगा तो what he is saying makes sense, na? Refund if you are not spent. But now that refund not spent and utilization is in sync, because for company also it has to be utilized. So if it is utilized, where is the question of refund? मैंने already spent कर दिया तो utilization हो नहीं सकता है. Yeah. If they have not spent it, then that fund should be available with them in a separate bank account. That's what. So a lot of these agreements which I spoke about say that the special bank account should be opened, which should be jointly operated. Yeah. I think we heard about that significantly. So it should be Bombay and then maybe any other areas. See, अगर वो सर्विस भी है तो भी उसका कोई client base होगा, उसका कोई employee का base होगा, तो वो basis पे you should focus on it. Where company has some standing. Let's say Zoho is there, which is software, but it is predominantly in South India. All their technicians or their engineers who are developing in one particular city, I think it's called some, I forgot the name. Yeah, so then they will do it in that activity. Zoho is sold all over, but uske jo technicians hai, engineers hai, wo ek jagah se aa rahe. So you may consider that as a base.
Education, based on education for peons or employees, basically for the that peon or driver salary
Children. No, it should not be considered. It should not be considered. So there have been cases where they say I have a scholarship program where employees' children are also eligible, and that should be covered. But again, it defeats the objective of. So अगर 10 जन को आप sponsor करो उसमें से एक आपके employee का बच्चा है तो ठीक है. But अगर 10 जन को sponsor करो और उसमें से 9 आपके employee के बच्चे हैं, तो then you are defeating the objective. Yeah, it's a perquisite to employ. Yes, sir. I thought I would not have questions. I have made it clear. So abhi mera, I will have to go back to my PPT.
Questions I have. One thing like if implementing agency if you are paying and they are not spending that, does the reporting entity has to report that because
आपको डबल स्पेंड करना पड़ेगा. वापस रिपीट करता हूँ, अगर आपने इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी को दिया तो आपका पैसा तो गया बैंक में से, वापस आएगा कि नहीं पता नहीं है, बट आपका तो नॉन कंप्लायंस खड़ा रह गया बिकॉज यू हैव नॉट यूटिलाइज्ड इट. तो आपको वो सेपरेट बैंक अकाउंट या पीएम फंड शेड्यूल 7 के फंड में भी ट्रांसफर करना पड़ेगा. तो आपका सीएसआर एक्सपेंडिचर 2 बार हो जाएगा. एक जो आपने एजेंसी को दिया, एंड सेकेंड टाइम बिकॉज यू आर नॉन कंप्लायंट एंड यू नीड टू कंप्लाई by way of a transfer, you will have to transfer from your own funds, even if you do not get a refund from the implementing agency. Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think so. I believe so. I think read it more broadly, rather liberally. Even, they have mentioned that you should read this Schedule 7 also more liberally. Somewhere it is mentioned like that. The government controls the Schedule 7. PM Care Fund या 2-3 nominated है. No, it cannot. वो investor education fund जैसा नहीं है. फिर government उससे करेगी charity जो भी करना है उसको. Yeah. Possibly, you are absolutely right. Party to that. Yeah, very valid point. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. So as we conclude this enlightening session, it is my honor to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks to CA Milan Modi ji for his invaluable insights on CSR spending, especially knowing that unlisted firms climb up the CSR list, and also how he highlighted the role of women in CSR, because females can be more collaborative and they can promote more participatory decision making, and they value universalism a lot, which is very vital for CSR initiatives. So the clarity with which you have addressed various sections and disclosure from various annual reports is also commendable. So let us carry forward the insights that we have gained today as we continue to make strides in our CSR efforts and reporting responsibilities under CARO 2020, ensuring transparency and integrity in our operations so as to build a sustainable future. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Let us have a round applause for sir. Thank you. So now we are dispersing for lunch. We'll take an 1-hour break and we'll resume at 2. 45 minutes to 1 hour. Thank you.